Can see what's
Oh, bless.
happening right next to the camera right here.
Dude, I'm loving the amount of pets that keep crashing these interviews. It's been amazing so far. That's so good. That's so good.
So if I reach over, he's getting pet. That's all that's happening.
Cool. Hey guys, James Wilson Taylor here for Rock Sound. It's the latest of our video calls. We are catching up with everybody while we're all kind of stuck at home in the minute. But I'm delighted to say from Fit for a King, Ryan's on the line. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. I'll start this out. We've just been chatting a little bit about all the madness that's happening at the minute, but we've, always started these saying, I hope you're keeping safe. I hope your family are all keeping as safe as you can in this very odd situation we find ourselves in. How has your lockdown kind of generally been going for you these last few months at home?
So there's been stages of the lockdown.
Right.
When I first got home after our tour was canceled 5 shows in, I was sad, but I was like, you know what? There's a bunch of games I've wanted to play because I don't play games on tour. I love video games, but I don't bring anything on tour to play them. I think I see it as like a healthy break when I go on tour. But I was like, you know what? There's all these single player games that I have never wanted to start because, I'm only home for 3 to 4 weeks at a time. But that lasted about 3 or 4 weeks till I was like, all right, can I please leave now? And that was 6 months ago.
So there we go.
Then there's just the very bummed out phase where you're like, man. And I think I've moved on to then there's a numb phase where every day just feels literally the exact same and you just don't remember to do anything because you have no concept of what day of the week it is.
Sure.
And then now I'm in the phase where like I'm streaming and it's doing really well. So I'm kind of like getting back into a grind of like, all right, I did it once with music. I can get original, come up with ideas for other ways to, make money and connect with fans. So now I'm just kind of in the idea stage. And I've learned if I just keep myself moving, it's a little easier. If I keep my brain working. Because when I wasn't, that's when I was really like sinking into your thoughts. And
yeah, I mean, I've said this to a lot of people. It's no mean feat to find ways to be creative because, none of us have gone through this before. And as much as, people think like we work in creative industries, of course you can just have all this time at home. It's a stressful time, man. It's always good to see when people have found ways to do that. And that's actually a really good place to start before we get onto the album and the singles and stuff. At the time of recording this, what is it, tomorrow night, the virtual release show? When's that happening? It's pretty soon, right?
Tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Eastern time. Not too European friendly.
Sure. So by the time, very true. It'll be fine. People will stay up. But by the time this has gone out, people will have already seen it, of course. But I'm curious then, what were the challenges? What was the approach in putting together something that's going to happen virtually in this, like we say, not a normal atmosphere to be doing a gig?
It's just we don't honestly know what to expect. I know how my personal streams do, but obviously we want this to be a lot larger because, not only is it to promote our new record, it's kind of experimenting to see, like, is this an alternative way to make some money while touring? Like we're doing a virtual merch table during the event and like where the items are only on sale through the show. It's free domestic shipping. Like we're trying to make it feel like you're at a show, but it's not. And then at the end of the event, we're doing a 1-hour Q&A with the members. So it's almost like a VIP, obviously not as intimate or like, it's not in person, but
sure.
None of this is going to be as cool as an in-person show. That's what I always try to tell people, like, don't expect any virtual concert to ever be as fun as going to see a show live. Because
I mean, of course, I think
people
people
aren't going to be playing to their full ability because there's no adrenaline rush really. And sorry to interrupt.
No. I'm interrupting you. What am I saying? But like, it's the bad thing of like, I guess now at this point where people have tried it, I guess there's kind of a thing of knowing what to expect a little bit. And I imagine for performers as well, I take it you've watched other people do this kind of thing over the last few weeks as well, surely. Yeah. What have you kind of learned and picked up from that? I mean, what's your approach for the show itself?
We went very big on the production. It's pre-recorded, but all the audio is still live to the recording. A lot of it had to do with schedule conflicts with members and stuff like that. But we pre-recorded it because we wanted like as many possible camera angles. We wanted to go big on the production. Like it's bigger production than we've done at any of our headline shows so far. no pyro yet. We got to save that for the in-person stuff. But like giant LED walls that I think came out to like $12,000 just to rent for the one day.
It's big.
And yeah, it's renting out like a really nice venue like the Masquerade in Atlanta. And I think something we learned too, and we don't know how our fan base will react. Everybody's fan base is different. So that's why we made a big emphasis on the event being free and donation based instead of charging admission. Because we just want to see how the donation model does, because if it works out, that's amazing, because then everybody who wants to see it can see it. And we also can receive like money to pay back, because we know like we spent like 15 grand or something to make this happen. I know actually more than that, because the 12,000 was just the LED walls. You have to pay the camera crew, you have to pay the venue, you have to. So we were like, you know what? We may not make all this money back. We may make triple the money back. We don't know how it's going to go, but the only way to truly find out is let's make this a free event. At the end of the day, our goal is as many people to watch it as possible. Anybody that's even 2% curious about our band, we want them to come to it, see a crazy production, and hopefully we win them over. And if you charge ticket prices, somebody who's 2% interested in the band, they're like, oh, I liked one Fit for a King song once. Those people aren't going to go spend $10 to $20 on a ticket.
Yeah, it's an interesting experiment, man, and all credit to you for doing it in that way, because like you say, it may reveal itself to open up brand new audiences for you. You know, I know that I've watched more of these kind of live stream gigs, even for bands that I've, followed for years and seen live many, many times. I'm still a bit like, do I want to watch that? Is it going to be the same? But yeah, I think that's a very, very smart move, and welcoming new people into the Fit for the King family,
Exactly. And we feel like our fans are so, we love our fan base. They've always been so good to us with supporting us. So that's why we felt comfortable with a donation thing. We're like, I trust the generosity of our fan base. And at the end of the day, even if it comes up short and we don't even make back the money we spent on the event, like we paid for it in cash, knowing that, hey, this is a risk. And at the end of the day, if a ton of people see it and become a Fit for a King fan and they buy a shirt, that's good enough for me. That means the event was a success.
Yeah, job done. Easy marker of success, that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Man. That's cool. It's cool to see it. And best of luck to you. And like I say, it'll have gone out by the time this goes out. So I hope people, if you have a chance to check it out, for sure. Let's talk about music then, man. It's great to be able to talk about new music and have stuff ready to go. The album is imminent at this point. Before we get there, I want to chat about Annihilation first, because something I thought was really interesting when I was reading like press releases and all this kind of thing and quotes you'd said to kind of help plug it. The thing that jumped out to me, I'm going to read a quote back to you right now, was saying, there are definitely times we can improve and fix the issues we have, but sometimes a fresh start is what we need. And in order to do that, we have to start from the ground up. Does this era feel like a fresh start for you? Does it feel like a fresh start for the band in a way?
I'd say in a way it does. In a way, I guess that's the optimistic way to look at it, is like, I feel like the pandemic, it's unfortunate. I think there are some bands that are going to be casualties from an extended break. Not because there's some bands that are on the in-between where they are too big to have a job at home, but they're also still an opener and they're not making they're living paycheck to paycheck essentially, or tour to tour. Fortunately, our band, I think, is right above that, where we're good for a little while. Like we're able to be good with our money and bring in enough money to not be desperate for that tour to happen right now. And I think it's sad because there's a lot of those in-between bands that they're going to have to go get full-time jobs. And then when touring does come back, some of them may just say, you know what, I'm already established at this full-time job. The touring world still looks like a little risky. I don't know if I should quit my job. And I think that's going to happen with some of the opener bands, or the ones that are working their way up. And it sucks because a lot of them were kind of working their way up the ladder over time. And I think, so for us, we look at it as a fresh start. The demand and the hunger for live music and for bands to play music will never be higher than when concerts return. So it's almost like a reset in the music industry as far as that goes. Because a lot of people are talking about, some cities get so many shows, like if you're a London or a New York City or a Los Angeles, You get it's like you get almost every tour that comes through, and there's like 8 of them in the city on any given night.
Yeah.
And some of those cities, you know, they do get like, they take it for granted sometimes because they get so many events. And this is kind of, even those markets are going to be like, I'm buying tickets to whatever concert I can buy, like as soon as things come back. So the optimistic point of view is like, once everything is done, things are going to just explode. And I think the only risky thing right now, I don't know how it is in Europe, but in the US, a lot of like small business venues or smaller venues are starting to shut down because of the lack of aid from the government, and they're not allowed to throw concerts. So they're just having to close their doors. And so the risky thing is, will there be a venue shortage when tours come back? Because everyone's going to tour, and big bands are going to be playing smaller venues whenever stuff comes back, just to, you know, play it safe. Like I'd rather go play, like bands that would normally play like a 2,000 cap might go play a 500 cap just to like make sure the tour, you know, kind of like see how the touring landscape is after the pandemic. And then, so it's going to be even harder for the small bands to land tours because there's just not going to be those small venues anymore. And even the like smaller ones, the 300 to 500 caps, big bands are going to be going down to those. And of course, the promoter is going to want the big band because they're like, oh, guaranteed sellout. I could even do 2 or 3 nights with the band here. And I think stuff like that's weird. But I think, as you said, a fresh start, it will be. And on top of all that, I think bands are learning to be more resourceful online, which I know we are right now with the virtual concert stuff, and me learning like all the ins and outs of streaming. And like Tuck, our bass player, he's doing a podcast now. I think he's like 30 or 40 episodes in. Like he's been doing a lot of episodes, getting some really cool guests. Bob, he doesn't tour anymore, but he owns a plant shop. Like people are, you know, getting resourceful, and I think it's going to pay off because I didn't realize how reliant I was on touring income. And then I was like, okay, now that I've learned that touring income can just apparently disappear with the snap of a finger. Because in my head, I always thought, well, what if I get really sick and I can't do a tour? What if I get injured and I can't finish a tour? Like, what if my throat gets hurt during a tour and I can't? That was always my biggest concern, not a global pandemic. And it's almost better for musicians to learn right now how to make more income outside of touring. Because let's say the reason I couldn't do a tour was because I was sick. Just me personally, I got really sick, like had a flu for 3 weeks, and I couldn't do a tour. There's no like assistance or government assistance for that. There's no stimulus check. There's no unemployment. So at least now, like, it sucks. I want to be touring, but I'm getting like unemployment pay. And then as soon as the stream money starts coming in, I'll be off that and onto the streaming stuff. And I've had to learn how to make money in other avenues. And it's just not something I've had to think about for the last 5 to 7 years.
It's a whole new world, man. It's a whole new world. Like you say, next year in particular, I think is going to be absolutely fascinating to see everyone. Because you're right. Everyone's going to be dying to get back out on the road and play stuff. And hopefully it all pans out. You know, like I'm glad, you know, like you say, I think fresh start is a good mantra, and keep staying positive and in that way. And I guess similarly, it must be great to have a new record to put out at this time. I mean, you must be delighted to finally be able to get the path out there to the people, especially when I guess that's the other thing with the live shows. A lot of bands I've been talking to have said when they're releasing music now, it's going to be super interesting when they finally do play those shows, because it's the first time where everyone will have heard the record and lived with it for months. Like that never happens. You're always out there playing it straight away, right?
Exactly. And that's why I'm very excited. Like if we're allowed to tour in April, May, I want us to do a headline tour right off the bat, because the album would have been out 7 months. Like that's usually when stuff starts, you figure out like how much people are embracing the record. Because when Dark Skies first came out, like you said, we toured the month it was coming out. People didn't know the words too well, but like at the 6 to 8 month mark of it being out, that's when you really start to like hear the sing-alongs, and you really, because like you said, people live with the record. So it will be interesting to like, if touring is back in May, if we do a headliner, like, is everybody going to know the words immediately from show one? And that's cool. And it is cool releasing an album during this period, because I mean, what better thing to put out to like keep your name circulating when you can't tour than music?
No, of course. It's worked out well scheduling wise for sure, absolutely. And it seems like it's getting great reactions as well. You know, Annihilation obviously did really well, but then Locked in My Head kind of came out recently as well.
Mm-hmm.
Really great track and a really nice blend. You know, there's been a lot of talk I see kind of led from you guys about, oh, we're going to lean into the heavier side, and then people be, you know, it's interesting the kind of mix that you're doing on this record for sure, because
Yeah.
that is to me, yeah, it's got the signature heavy stuff, but it's very melodic as well to great effect. You know, talk to me about putting that track together in particular.
Locked in My Head was honestly one of the most collaborative efforts of the whole band on the track. And I saw one guy try to say this was the song that their label probably held a gun to their head and said, make a radio song, which is hilarious because our labels they don't even hear the album until they usually will visit like 4 or 5 weeks into the studio and then just say, oh, that's awesome. And then they'll take us to dinner. Like that's the extent of their input on the record.
Sure.
So no, nobody held a gun to our head. And it's actually a lot of members' favorite song on the record because it just flowed and we enjoy the chorus. And a lot of people wonder like what these singles are very different from old Fit for a King tracks. And the big thinking with that, even though Breaking the Mirror is like Price of Agony 2.0. So I don't understand when people say this came out of nowhere. And I was like, did you listen to the other songs? But with Annihilation, God of Fire, Locked in My Head, a song like Locked in My Head, the goal is I want that to be the bridge for people who are into mainstream rock. Like, don't listen to metal. They listen to like Breaking Benjamin or Five Finger Death Punch or even softer artists. And they hear that song and they're just like, okay, because there is a breakdown in it. It's not a heavy breakdown, but there is double kick. There's chugs. It's the singing is a little like less on the butt rock side. It's more of like what you would hear from a metalcore band, but it's like a metalcore rock song. And that was our goal with it was I want to win people over and make them fans of metalcore. I want this to be their like gateway song to this whole other world because I want them to hear Locked in My Head on the radio or at the gym. It's on like some gym playlist here in America and stuff. And I want them to be like, oh, that's a really cool song. And there's not really any screaming. There's like little background screams. So it kind of like introduces you to more screaming. Obviously, if you listen to Five Finger, you've heard a lot of screaming. So I guess I'm more targeting like the people who don't like screaming. They hear this song and they're just like, okay, that's really catchy. I'm going to go listen to another one of their songs. Then they go listen to Breaking the Mirror, which is the top song on Spotify. It has a good amount of screaming, but it's, you know, a lot of singing too. And it's kind of like Locked in My Head, but edgier. Right. And then they're just like, okay, I like this. This is cool. And then you go down to When Everything Means Nothing. Then you go down to Annihilation. Then eventually you find yourself at Backbreaker or Vendetta and all that. And now you're a metal fan. So it's kind of like I wanted to reach, like with the virtual concert being free, I want this record to not just make metalcore fans happy. I want to convert people to metalcore and also make metalcore fans happy.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to think about this as well. Like I was going to say, I'm glad you mentioned that it does tie in exactly to what you said about the virtual concert, because why not bring more people? Let's make a broader church. Why not? You know, like having that entry level, because like you say, it's not like you've made a soft ballad here, man. It's still pretty heavy. It's maybe slightly more melodic and like you say, less screaming, but yeah, absolutely. Why not have an entry point like that? It sounds like that's what you're aiming for. Get those bigger crowds and grow the people appreciating the genre, which is quite an exciting way to do it.
Exactly. And that helps the entire genre. Like, cause when we were in the studio, like bands that got me into metal were like Bullet for My Valentine, Avenged Sevenfold, Atreyu, All That Remains back on the Fall of Ideals record, Older Thrice, stuff like that, where it was kind of like, I heard Avenged Sevenfold and Bullet for My Valentine and Atreyu on Madden, the American football game. I'll say that. And I'm like, man, how many people like were won over to metal because of that? Because it won me over, and now I'm a metalcore fan, and it only benefits every band within the genre. And I want to be like that. I want to do what like Bullet for My Valentine and Avenged Sevenfold and all that, As I Lay Dying and all that did for me, for the new generation of metal fans.
Great. That's great to hear, man, because it is quite rare, I think. Obviously, you know, everyone's got their own goals. They want to do their own thing. But I love that, the idea of building a bit more of a community there. And yeah, welcoming people in. Let's not be dismissive. Let's bring the people in. Let's let them find the music they want to find, right? Makes sense, man. Makes sense. Right, it's really good to chat to you, man. I'm very excited for this album release for you guys. I'm very excited for this virtual concert as well, because that sounds ambitious, and I'm liking the way you're doing it, man. More to come, I guess. Have you guys figured out a plan for once the record's out? How are you going to be approaching, communicating with the fans when the record's actually out there?
I'll continue doing my, you know, personal stream. Tuck will continue doing his podcast. We're each trying to do our individual thing, and then for the band, it really depends on how this stream goes. If it goes really well, like we figure out the donation-based free concert is the way to go, like that's what people enjoy doing, and it's a good balance of people don't have to pay if they don't want to, and we also don't go into debt over it, and we can make some money to replace touring income, then that's a win-win. If it goes amazing, then maybe we do a concert. Like I've thrown around the ideas, like if it goes well, the next concert will be the heaviest Fit for a King concert we've ever done. And we just play the heaviest tracks from every record. That's just another free event. And we do some like crazy production for how heavy it is and all that. And then maybe we do like a concert series where we play each album in its entirety and people can pay to see each individual concert. We'll limit the ticket numbers to each one. So that would be like more of the exclusive route. There's a lot to throw around, but I guess it all starts with how well the virtual, I guess the stairs after, how well the virtual concert did.
How well it went. What did you think?
Yeah, how well
did it go, everybody? No, I mean, best of luck to you, man. I like the ambition, and yeah, just, you know, best of luck with the record, and we look forward to seeing you guys in the UK whenever that's allowed, hopefully beginning of next year or something like that. We'll hopefully see you over here. In the meantime, take care of yourself, man, and we'll chat to you soon, all right?
Hey, you too. Thank you.
Thanks so much, man.